Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore, and Hannah Gutierrez, the armor on the set Rust that caused the tragic loss of Helena Hutchins. Well, she has lawyered up, and her lawyers did an interview with GMA, and we can finally get a sense of what their defense is going to be. And their logic is, well, this was a result of on-set sabotage. Wow. Bold move, because I imagine this won't inspire even more cast and crew to step up to explain how ridiculous this excuse is. But no, they're out there, and we'll play this clip. I watched it in the live, and Licky McLickerson here, her lawyer. Oh my God, this guy looks like a lizard man. The elbowing his partner the whole time, and looking this. If there weren't tells that these two lawyers are clearly in over their head with unsure what to do, and so their excuse is, well, hey, she didn't know. Yes, sure, she's an expert in this field, but there was a disgruntled crew, a bunch of them. They all quit, so clearly one of them must have put it in the pistol. And it's not her job to double check. Yeah, she spun it and looked at it, but there's numbers on this. Guys, the excuses here are insane. They are insane. So I want to go through some of this clip because it's going to blow your mind.
You had released a statement last week. You said Hannah was beside herself and devastated by what had happened. How would you describe her state of mind right now?
Savannah, I think she was absolutely devastated. She remains very emotional about everything that's happened.
Drinking game when this guy licks or elbows somebody.
As you can imagine, coming on the scene after and everything that she saw, she's heartbroken. And she's just devastated by what's happened.
Well, the key question in this case is how on earth a live round got into that weapon on set. It was your client who loaded the gun. So how does she explain how a live round got into that gun?
I think that's the most pivotal question in this case. And I think that is going to be the question that we want the FBI, want the sheriff, want the district attorney to all address. We know they're going to address it. We both are former federal prosecutors. The FBI is super competent. That is the central question as to this case, which is how did a live round get on set, and who put that live round on the set?
Well, let me put a fine point on it. She loaded the gun.
Yes.
Did she load a live round?
Yes. Good question.
Well, we don't even know that, and let me tell you why, Savannah. There was a box of dummy rounds, and the box is labeled dummy.
The only dummies I'm seeing are these two.
Hannah did take from that box, which she, by all accounts, should have been able to rely on.
She should have been able to rely on. Sorry, I'm going to start and stop because, whoa. She should be able to rely on? She shouldn't have to double check the dummies to make sure they're dummies? What on earth does that mean? She should be able to rely on this box that she just left on a set. There's no reason. Clearly, you're saying there's sabotage, so then even more of a reason why maybe she should have had kept a better eye on this stuff, no? They're very easy to tell apart.
Contains only dummy rounds. She loaded rounds from that box into the handgun.
There it is. Oh, there's the first lick.
Only later to find out and she had no idea. She inspected the rounds, that there was a live round. Now, we don't know, however, whether that live round came from that box. We're assuming it did. We're assuming somebody put the live round in that box, which if you think about that, the person who put the live round in the box of dummy rounds had to have the purpose of sabotaging this set. There's no other reason you would do that you would mix that live round in with the dummy rounds.
Well, let me just stop you right there. Is that your theory of the case, that someone intentionally placed a live round into a box of dummies for the purpose of it ending up in a weapon that would be used on set?
Fantastic question. Now they've set the tone. Oh, let's see. Really? You think that's likely?
We don't have a theory yet. We don't
have a theory, but we just gave you one.
Investigating, and we were trying to get all the facts. That's one of the possibilities, admittedly.
So that's a theory. It's what these lawyers, they just lie left and right because they're allowed to. They don't have to tell you the truth.
You have a round that's supposed to contain only dummy bullets, prop ammunition.
A round? He's not even getting this. You mean the dummy box? A box that's supposed to only have dummies that she should be checking when she loads every single damn time. You mean that?
That have a projectile but are incapable of being fired, and they resemble a real round.
Why
and the
would
reason
someone
for that,
do that?
Savannah, is that when you look down.
Why would someone do that, and who in your mind had the motive and the opportunity to do it?
I believe that somebody who would do that would want to sabotage the set, want to prove a point, want to say that they're disgruntled, they're unhappy. And we know that people had already walked off the set the day before. And they had been, and they're unhappy. And the reason they were unhappy is they're working 12 to 14-hour days. They were not given hotel rooms in and around the area, so they had to drive back and forth an hour to Albuquerque, and they're unhappy.
I just want to be crystal clear. Are you saying that potentially those that were unhappy, this disgruntled crew members who had walked off the set, that they're potential suspects in your mind of intentionally placing a live round to prove a point, in your words?
Great follow-up again. She's doing a good job on this one because she's putting them under the gun to really be like, so really? You're telling me that these people literally just wanted to do that on purpose to prove a point?
Well, I think, Savannah, you can't rule anybody out at this point because we know a couple of facts. We know there was a live round in a box of dummy rounds.
There's more licking. He's been doing it.
Shouldn't have been there. At least one live round. We have people who had left the set who had walked out because they were disgruntled. We have a time frame between 11 and 1, approximately that day, in which the firearms at times were unattended. So there was opportunity to tamper with this scene. And yes, we're looking at that possibility because, I'm sorry?
Was the gun ever left unattended on the day of the incident?
Here's the elbow.
Savannah, it was left unattended from 11 to after 1 o'clock. Hannah actually took the guns are locked in a safe. The prop ammunition was in a truck, the prop truck. That was completely unattended at all times, giving someone access and opportunity. But the answer to your question is that the tray was outside the church for over 2 hours unattended after she had prepped that for what was going to be an afternoon filming session outside of the church.
So the gun was on the tray.
So the answer to that is yes.
Okay, so the gun was on the tray. She had loaded it. It was unattended for a period of 2 hours. Now, as the armorer, was it her responsibility to maintain custody and control of the weapon?
Yes.
She had 2 roles on that film set, and
so now here's the pivot. Well, why wasn't her? They're testing some theories out to see how we all react. Well, she wasn't She was supposed to be having it, but she had 2 roles on this set.
That's another thing we want to emphasize, that she was an armorer, but she was also a key props assistant. She was only being paid for an armorer part-time. Essentially, she was doing 2 roles. So what had happened, Savannah, is that at 11, nothing was going on at that point. She had the guns prepped. She had them laid out on the cart. They then went to lunch. She came back. She had another duty and responsibility as key props assistant, and so she had gone to do that right after she had provided the handgun to Mr. Halls.
Now, here's what's frustrating. I don't doubt they gave way too many responsibilities across this set. I don't doubt that this production was a mess. I don't doubt they were overworking, not paying. I don't doubt any of it. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. You took the role of prop master. Apparently, she's part of a whole family that should know better. She should know better. This is imperative that you do the safety checks and you don't let anybody's rush. Stop it. You didn't check it thoroughly enough, and that's on you. It is your responsibility, and if you can't handle that responsibility, don't do the job. And sure as hell, don't take 2 jobs. That's because you should say, well, I can't do this other job. I'm only going to do this. Sorry, I'm not taking the job. But you didn't. You took the risk. This all was preventable, and you don't get to now say, well, it's because they didn't give me. You're your own person, girl. You made the choices, and the production may have absolutely. They're all on deck too. They're on deck. They're on deck too to see who else is accountable for all those mistakes. But come on, what the hell is this excuse?
So Mr. Halls took custody of the weapon, and at that point, she was doing her other duties as a key prop assistant.
So that's interesting. So she's saying, well, no, he had it in hand. So he is saying that.
Set aside for the moment how the live round got there, which obviously to you is a matter of great dispute. Once it was time for that weapon to go onto the set, did Hannah inspect the gun, the chamber? Did she look at the cartridges and determine that they were dummy cartridges?
Again, great question. Here he goes. He's going to elbow him.
She did not. And this is really, Savannah, a really critical fact. What happened and what transpired in the church was not a rehearsal. It was not set to be filmed. This was what was called a tech prep. And they're positioning cameras. Hannah was not in the church. And that's really significant because if there was something that was going to involve one of the firearms, she had to be there. She wasn't in the church because it wasn't set up to have that dynamic of we're going to use one of these firearms. In other words, tech prep was positioning cameras.
So then it shouldn't have been locked up, like you said before, that these should all be locked up when it's not ready for shooting? I mean, isn't that how the safety protocols work that she ignored? Mr. Lick?
Understand.
She wasn't there.
Yeah, we only have a few seconds, but Dave Halls, who's the assistant director, said that Hannah had spun the chamber for him, that he only remembers seeing 3 rounds, but that he had inspected it, and of course the witnesses say there was someone who said cold gun. Did that happen?
Well, there you go. So we have the defense of the AD saying, well, she spun it, she showed me. She said it was good. So there's going to be a lot of finger pointing back and forth at who's to fault. And honestly, it's both of their faults.
Yes, in fact, Savannah, that did happen. She did spin the cylinder for him. She did show him each and every round in that chamber, which there were 6. There were 6 dummy rounds she believed to be in that handgun. She spun it and showed it all to Mr. Halls.
As the armorer,
and at that time, she gave custody of the...
Yeah, let me just say, as the armorer, when she's spinning it around, shouldn't she have known with her expertise that there was a live round in that chamber?
Let's hear what they say, shall we?
Well, the problem is, and when you look at a dummy round and you look at their appearance, they have the same projectile tip.
Oh,
some of these do not have a hole inside of them. They mimic and look like a real round. So
they're going to argue, oh, they look so close. They look so close. Yeah, anyone can make this mistake. No, you can't afford to make that mistake, Hannah. Sorry, you can't. And if you don't know the difference, you shouldn't have the job.
That scene and that set at that time, Hannah spun it for Mr. Halls. He took the weapon, and then he went into the church, and thereafter provided it apparently to Mr. Baldwin.
And finally, before I let you go, she gave an initial statement to the investigators. If they request another interview, will you allow her to cooperate? And are you fearful that criminal charges could be forthcoming in this case?
We are definitely cooperating with the authorities. We will have another interview with authorities. We are appreciative of what the district attorney has said and what she's doing, when she's looking at this, taking her time, and really getting all the facts. And again, we think the FBI is going to be very important, their forensic analysis, and what they find regarding those live rounds, how they got there, and who put them there, the DNA, the fingerprint, all of that evidence.
Well, Jason Bold.
Well, there you go. Bravo, these two. They got a job. Everybody has the right to counsel, whether we like it or not. That's due process. That's our rights at work. And this is their excuse. Well, she should have known. They look too similar. Someone clearly put it in there. We don't even know. There were so many disgruntled people leaving. Hey guys, don't blame our girl. It's not her fault, even though she's responsible for all the. I don't get it. I don't get it. On top of that, we have one of the former camera assistants who left, spoke to ABC News.
Well, what I put in my resignation letter was lax COVID
there was
policies.
a lot of policies that they didn't like.
The housing situation, driving to and from Albuquerque, and specifically gun safety, a lack of rehearsals, a lack of preparing the crew for what we were doing that day.
Your claims there have been disputed by Therese Davis, who is a costume designer. She made a posting on Facebook, and I want to put it up on the screen right now. After a couple of accidental discharges, she said the guns were checked immediately afterwards. The discharges were announced on set and apologized for. She said, I was right there. We had several safety meetings, she said, sometimes multiple per day.
Even the producers have said that they only had 3 safety meetings by the time I left the show, and that included the day of the shooting. I only personally remember 2 safety meetings that involved the entire crew. If there was a safety meeting, I was left out of it, if there were any more than the 2.
The producers also said your claims are patently false. They say you had nothing to do with or knowledge of safety protocols, and they conclude it's truly awful to see some using this tragedy for personal gain. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, so there's no personal gain in this for me. I'm kind of sticking my neck out here. I don't want to be on camera. I have a pretty unique perspective in that it's important that I be a part of safety as the head of the camera department for protecting the camera, protecting the camera operators, knowing what the shot is. It's very important that I play a role in safety. I actually had to take classes in Los Angeles in order to get my union card.
So where was the breakdown here in your mind? Was it the assistant director? Was it the armorer?
I think with Rust, it was a perfect storm of, the armorer, the assistant director, the culture that was on set, the rushing. It was everything.
I believe that.
It wasn't just one individual. Everything had to fall into place perfectly for this 1 in a trillion thing to happen.
I think that's really well said. So, look, a lot of people, the producers, of course, aren't going to like this crew member speaking out. And everyone's out there in defense mode trying to point the blame somewhere else because it's a serious tragedy. Life was lost. This was a mother with a child, and we shouldn't forget about Helena Hutchins, who this is all about. And there needs to be accountability and justice for her and her family because this was a totally preventable mistake. And the reality is the AD is responsible. The armorer is absolutely responsible. I'm sorry, this excuse isn't. Is it working for you? I want to hear it down in the comments below. And I do believe some of the production department, not necessarily the producers. It depends how much they knew. If they knew, then they should be as well. But we had John Hubbard on the other day. Said, well, Alec should have been charged as well. He's the one who did it. He can fight it later. He can post his bond, get out there. He can afford it. The only reason Alec isn't arrested is because he's Alec Baldwin. So that's the other take that you got in this case. So there's a lot going on here. We're going to see a lot of finger pointing and a lot of trying to figure out what to do. At the end of the day, safety needs to be changed. And there are a lot of movements already happening. I've seen across the board in Hollywood, a lot of shows in town are now refusing to use any real stuff. They're all planning to only use rubber. Here's another example. There's another a shoot happening in New Mexico is now only using the rubber ones and CGI after this tragedy with Ryan Felipe, Ving Rhames, etc. So you're going to see this happen a lot more. A lot of cast and crew are not going to. They're like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Enough people will finally stand up. And it's sad it took this tragedy for it to happen. But I do believe there will be change after this because, look, Hollywood sucks. Hollywood's going to change when they realize they can go to jail for a mistake that's not their fault. That's when shit actually, when money, and it starts costing money or their careers, then they start making change. And that's sadly what's going to cause it. So we'll see more of it, but I'm curious what you think. Do you think there could have been a sabotage? Are you even humoring this lawyer's excuse? Do you believe the crew members that even if they're disgruntled that they have a point, that this was too rushed? I want to hear all your thoughts down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for all alerts because YouTube doesn't always alert you guys. Smash that like button if you made it this far and tell us what you think about this case in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos throughout the day as well as live show every 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Popcorn Planet.